Hello, my name is Kerri-Ellen Kelly. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I was part of a coalition, a global coalition of demonstrators who prepared presentations in conjunction with World Cardmaking Day. This is the card, the project that I designed, and I wanted to share it with you as a separate video. This was inspired by a trip that I took in September 2021 with my best friend, Paul, to visit a number of sites in New England, but especially some sites that were connected with my personal family history. We visited multiple cemeteries as part of that trip. We visited Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. We visited the ancestral home of the Fairbanks line of my grandmother's ancestry, built by Jonathan Fairbanks. But the highlight, one of the most special parts of the trip, and a particular focal point for us, was finding this little cemetery in New Hampshire in a drizzly rain, where I found was buried my Revolutionary War ancestor, Samuel Estabrook. And that was very exciting. Took a lot of combing the cemetery in that drizzly rain, and that was very exciting for me and very moving. This is a card that was inspired by that trip. I wanted to use dies and stamps from various assorted die sets and stamp sets within Stampin' Up's current catalog to emulate a cemetery. And I made a Halloween theme so that it could be used by other people. While my inspiration was my own family history and this trip, this card is meant to give you an option to use my creativity and your own to create something new. Or you can create the exact same card. It's completely up to you. But I hope you enjoy it. I'll be sharing how I created the various elements from the card in this video. I will have a link to a handout in the video when I publish it, so that you can see anything that might be underneath my video, especially the text. Have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoy my card presentation. Thank you. So I took one die from 4 different die sets. I've shown you exactly which die, and I've showed you the kind of gravestones that result from it. They're all, and I'm going to make this presentation available as a PDF handout, so that you can deal with not being able to see the entire text because of having me in the corner. They were all cut in 3 different colors of cardstock: basic gray, gray granite, and smoky slate. I either trimmed or covered up the bottom where it wasn't squared off. The first die is squared off, the other items are not. But I either covered them up or I cut it square. Now, to stamp these gravestones, I started out with these cutout shapes. I then used the watercolor shapes. I used the rectangle because it was large. I wanted to get a mottled look to them, so I stamped on them first with Sahara sand. Didn't matter which color cardstock I picked. I used Sahara sand ink universally. Then on top of that, I used the speckle stamp from Quiet Meadow, and I stamped using Whisper White on top of that because I wanted it to look like the lichen. I wanted these to look aged. Then I added some decorative elements. I didn't go to the point of actually putting names on these or anything, but I did put some leafy sprigs from willow tree and graceful tiles, and I used those being basic gray. I stamped it off so that you got a much lighter effect. The stone wall was fairly simple. I used Sahara sand. I used the stacked stone stamp and stamped it with Sahara sand, so you got a tone-on-tone look. And then I dry embossed the entire piece using the Brick and Mortar 3D embossing folder. I did use a much larger piece so that I could do it, save myself some steps, do it all in one, and then I could cut down pieces of that stamped and embossed piece and to make my little pieces of wall. Because I wanted to do the scrapbook page pieces as well as the card pieces at the same time. That is 4.5 inches by 1 inch, as I recall. Now, to make the foliage, I just used the willow tree dies, the willow dies, and then once they were cut out, and it was important to do it once they were cut out, I also then took the willow tree stamp, the same stamp you see at the top in the picture, and then I stamped on the old olive cardstock with Parakeet Party ink, and I just turned the stamp multiple directions, so then you get this variegated look. It's almost like if you'd done it with Versamark, except because it's green, it's a little bit just less, it's still subtle, but not quite as subtle as Versamark. And you get very much of a tone on tone, but variegated look, so that it looks a bit more like real green, real greenery. The titles were punched from the 2022-2024 in color 6x6 glimmer paper, the Tahitian tide, the light blue one, that lovely Tahitian tide that we now have. And then I took each of the punched pieces and I touched it on all of its edges onto the Parakeet Party ink pad, basically direct to paper is what that technique is usually called. Then once I had those all ready, I then stamped using the black StazOn ink all of the letters because I needed it to show up on top of the glimmer paper really well, so that's why I used the StazOn ink. And then the subtitle underneath it is just a piece of pale papaya cardstock. You see 1.5 inches high by 3 inches wide, and stamped at the bottom with the Perfect Day to Celebrate message from the Graceful Tiles stamp set using black memento ink. To assemble the card, started out centering that pale papaya cardstock right at the top, and then putting just some of the letters off to the left and right. Then I added, they're on dimensionals, and then I added the rest of the letters in the word Halloween on top of that subtitle card once it was on the card. So they were raised using dimensionals. The subtitle card was just glued straight on. Then I set up the gravestones. I just picked some in different colors, different shapes and different colors. I put some, glued some down straight, and then I added the other ones that were going to be the ones closer in the foreground. I put them on dimensionals. So you see some look closer to you, some look more behind. Then I layered that piece of the stone wall piece on top using dimensionals. And then the last step is to take the the foliage, the greenery from willow tree, and I just cut it in various pieces and layered it, and I didn't actually use any dimensionals or anything. I just glued it wherever I needed to glue it using liquid glue so that it would stay on top. And here's the finished card again. These are the scrapbook pages that I made. And on the next slide I will show you the additional supplies that I used to make the scrapbook pages. And now these are the additional supplies beyond the ones that are listed for the card, which will be in the handout that the link that I provide. These are the additional supplies used in the scrapbook pages that were not used in the card. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I hope you find an inspiration, and I hope you had an opportunity to enjoy World Cardmaking Day. And if not, just use it as inspiration and perhaps join one of the various programs that are offered for next World Cardmaking Day in October 2023. Thank you. This has been Kerri-Ellen Kelly. Have a lovely day.